Ladies and gentlemen, this presentation will be approximately 2 hours and will cover a range of topics which will be discussed in the slideshow. We hope you enjoyed the training session and thank you for your participation. Let me just give you the workshop agenda and the topics that we're going to discuss. Teaching objectives. The first thing I'd like to discuss with you guys is how to equip the student with necessary knowledge and the tools that we're going to require. Then we're going to look at the general and the specific aims. And then more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to look at understanding the syllabus. And when we're speaking about the syllabus, we're talking about the weighting of the syllabus, the details of the question paper, and more importantly also what we call the ICAS guidelines. Then we look at what is called best practice of the subject. I can recommend certain guidelines with regards to that, but I would also appreciate your feedback with regards to that, because I'm not the know-it-all with regards to the subject, but I'll give you the best possible information in order to assist you. I am going to say one thing to you that for the subject this semester, I've acquired a 91% pass rate for sales management N5 and for my college or campus, and that's for N5 level. So I would assume that we are doing things right with regards to the subject. Questions and feedback, guys, we will look at that maybe at the end of the session. You know, we can have what is called a closing discussion. We're also going to look at exam preparation and assessments, because that is important with regards to getting the desired results that you'd like. And then I also touch on what is called the learning objectives and the content of the syllabus. Okay. Right. So let's discuss the challenges and the difficulty of the subject, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we're all aware of the challenges of sales management N5 in the TVET sector being associated with the following: low throughput, high dropout, high failure rates resulting in students not meeting the requirements of the ICAS, meaning some of them don't even qualify to write the exam because they have not met the requirements of the 3 assessments, which is the assignment, the written test, and the internal exam, ladies and gentlemen. If they do not pass those 3, they're not going to be eligible to write the exams. There could be a lot of contributing factors, such as inadequate preparation for the exam, not adhering to the prescribed syllabus, poor planning of your semester plans, students struggling to grasp the subject due to subject jargon, and in some cases, English being a third language to some of our learners. So those are the challenges that we actually encounter. What I must emphasize, and I'm sure many of the lecturers are aware of that the subject is what we call a verbatim subject. There is no room for analysis of interpretation. Also, more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, I must emphasize that when you are doing this particular subject, unfortunately, route learning has to take place in order to be successful. We find that in the exam center, I am one of the moderators and markers for the subject externally for DHET, and we find that a lot of the students are not grasping the information that's in the textbook and giving it directly in the exam the way it's supposed to be. So those are a lot of things that we need to fix in the future. Kenny, can you hear me?
Yeah.
If there's anyone in the room that would like to just tell me what are their challenges, and then we can address it. Are there any lecturers that would like to tell us what are their challenges over there, Kenny, with regards to the subject?
They can hear you perfectly fine, so I'm thinking they will, tell you there's anything, Peter.
Okay. Right, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. Can I?
Yes,
you can.
Thank you. So, you know, we're all complaining about the subject, but let us become solution driven. Because what is the objective here? The objective or the desired result is to get, obviously, a higher pass rate. We need to start generating what is called an increase in the interest of the subject and let the student gain confidence in the subject. More importantly, also, we need to encourage active participation in the subject. And as a result of this, it will improve the results, thus increasing the pass rates. And what we've done in the classroom is we've brought in industry and told them, okay, what type of jobs can you actually get out of this particular subject? We also spoke to them about what is the income potential and what is the earning potential. And that enhanced students actually to say, listen, this is an opportunity for me to earn more money and become financially independent. And also, more importantly, we also speak to them about many opportunities in the sales environment. So we try and also make it relevant to a career choice, sales. And that is why we also get a better result, because people will think of sales being a career or a potential career. So we look at what is called the teaching and learning objectives. So colleagues, after this session, you will be able to understand the following. First of all, number one, how to equip the student with the necessary knowledge. What is the general aims of this course particularly? And as a lecturer, understanding the N5 syllabus in conjunction with the textbook. As lecturers, we should know what the syllabus is. We should know what is the weightings of the syllabus, ladies and gentlemen. And more importantly also, we should know the details of the question paper for the exam. If we're wanting to make this subject a success, we need to set quality assessments that are in line with what DHET wants. Okay, because that's the only way we're going to improve the results of the subject. We're also going to look at what is best practice for this particular subject, ladies and gentlemen. And then we're also going to look at what is called exam preparation, as well as time management. Exam preparation meaning having continuous evaluation and continuous assessments. And I know it's an administrative nightmare when it comes to marking. I know not all of us enjoy the marking process, but the bottom line is, unfortunately, with this subject, it needs to be continuous in order to get the success that we need. Learning objectives and content for each module. We also look at the textbook. Does it match up with the didactical guidelines of the syllabus? And we'll discuss that in general, ladies and gentlemen. So this is what we call your teaching and learning objectives. In other words, what are we going to get out of this session? So, how do you equip your students with necessary knowledge for success? Equip them with the following tools. When your student starts at the beginning of the semester, we as lecturers need to be prepared for this particular subject. Number one, we need to give them, I call it a starter pack. As soon as the student gets into the classroom, you give them a course outline. That's the first thing. In other words, what are we actually going to do with regards to the subjects? How many modules are in the subject? What are the topics that we're going to discuss? Yes, I know the textbook is there. I understand that. But between you and I, let's be realistic here, because some of these students don't read the textbooks. They don't. And some of them don't even open up the textbooks. So what do? We give them a course outline. Inform them about the duration of instruction. And also the fourth one is assessment requirements with regards to the ICAS. And the three assessments that we're going to concentrate on, the first one is the assignment. And then we've got the written test. And then, of course, the internal exam. And I'll go into detail as to what the quality of the assessments should be in order to get the desired results, ladies and gentlemen. Also ensure that your student also gets a copy of the semester plan for students. In other words, what is in the semester plan? The semester plan tells you what assessments are going to be tested. And obviously what modules are going to be tested in those assessments. We also look at the internal evaluations after each module. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, with regards to sales management, there has to be continuous testing and evaluation. In other words, you will do the module, after each module, you will have to do the testing to determine whether the students are grasping the information. If not, you have to go back and consolidate, and they need to redo the test, ladies and gentlemen. Resources that we're going to look at. Your student must have the textbook, they must have a notebook, and more importantly, they must also do the formatives in the classroom. Okay. Another thing also to equip yourself with is question papers. Now, some people are going to ask, okay, how are we going to access those question papers? If we go onto the DHET website, you will see all the sales question papers there for a number of years and for many semesters, and you can download those question papers. And I'm talking about these question papers for us as lecturers, ladies and gentlemen, and it comes with a memorandum as well. So there are many tools available to make our job a lot easier. Proper testing of the module in line with DHET examination standards and setting up the question papers, and also more importantly, having high quality question papers that are in line with what needs to be asked. I just want to ask one thing, Kenny. What type of resources are the lecturers using on that side? Are they using the textbook and over there, or are they giving the student notes, prepared notes?
I will leave them to answer that question themselves, Peter. They are right here.
Okay, fine, no problem. So I think we can do that afterwards.
I'm hearing a textbook is being used, and previous question being listen.
Some slides for maybe videos or maybe audio just to support.
Okay, perfect. So, the general aims of this course is to introduce the students to the nature and extent of personal sales and enable students to identify the instructional offering. What is our duty as lecturers is to impart the theoretical and practical knowledge and enable them to sell a particular product with confidence. The most important part of this particular course is the selling process, or what we call the 7 steps of the sales process. The sales process, ladies and gentlemen, equates for 35% of testing in the final exam. So in other words, out of a allocated exam of 200 marks, they ask on average about 70 to 80 marks from the selling process. So it's very important that your student must know the selling process, not negotiable. You have to place a lot of emphasis on the selling process, which is the 7 steps in the sales process. Okay. The specific aims of this course to equip the student with basic knowledge of the art of sales and apply it to practice, to orientate the students in the sales forecasting and applying the basic forecasting, familiarizing the student with sales territories, knowledge on the use of quotas, types of quota setting, and participation in quota setting. Now, I'd like to just touch on this issue of knowledge of quotas. When we do the exam marking, we find that a lot of students struggle with quotas. Okay, it's not the easiest module in the book, and what we've done is at the college, at College of Cape Town, we've placed a lot of emphasis on that, and we've spent a lot more time on it because of the jargon and how challenging it actually is. Also, we're looking at the knowledge of the 7 steps of the selling process. Like I said, it equates for 35% in the final exam, ladies and gentlemen. Very important. And I'm going to go through the weightings of the syllabus soon. Then also we look at types of selling. That's another module. And of course, the improvements of personal effectiveness. And I also call that module time and area management. And I'll explain it to you in detail as I go along, ladies and gentlemen. So, understanding the syllabus. So, if you look at the modules, there are 7 modules that we need to focus on. Okay? The first one is the nature and extent of personal sales. Sales forecasting is the second module. Sales territories. Sales quotas, the sales process, types of selling, and improvement of personal effectiveness. Now, like I said, for me, the most important module there is the selling process, because it accounts for the majority of the marks in the final exam. Please make sure that your student knows the selling process well, because it can count between a pass and a fail, ladies and gentlemen. If they know that well, they should be able to pass the exam. That's a guarantee. Okay? So we're going to look at the weighting of the syllabus according to DHET, ladies and gentlemen. So in other words, how long am I supposed to spend on these modules, ladies and gentlemen? The total amount of weeks that we need to spend on these modules in order to make it effective is 14 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. 14 weeks. I know you guys are going to tell me, okay, we've got challenges with strikes. I mean, we know the TVET sector. I mean, we've also have that. I mean, last semester I lost 14 days to unscheduled strikes and students staying absent due to the challenges of NSFAS. So we all have those challenges and we need to work around it. But let's touch wood and hope that we don't have those challenges this semester. So if you look at the weightings of the syllabus or the time that needs to be spent on the modules, on average, you're going to find that certain modules are going to take you 2 weeks, and it's up to you. Use your discretion when you're doing your planning as to how much time you're going to spend on certain aspects of the modules. But make sure that you complete it within the time frame. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure you complete it within the time frame. And like I'm saying, you will notice when you look at the time spent, you will see that topic 5, the selling process, takes longer. It's got a longer time to spend because obviously it's a much more in detailed module. So what we do at our college, we start with the selling process first because of the amount of information that's in that particular module. It takes you longer, but also the fact that we're starting with it and we're starting with that particular module first, just the student feels more at ease, and it's not a difficult module to go through. But it's a long module, and like I said, it equates with 35%. Okay? So now we look at what is called the weighting of the syllabus according to DHET. And you will notice here we've got the weight in percentages. Okay? And the weighting value per module is out of 100. So you will notice that all this weighting equates to 100%, ladies and gentlemen. Now, when we talk about weighting, we talk about weighting as to what a percentage of the module gets tested in the final exam. Okay, for example, the nature and extent of personal sales, that's 5% of 200. So on average, in some cases, they ask about 10 marks. Okay, but we all know that this is what DHET tells us that they're doing, but in reality, sometimes it doesn't happen. Okay, sometimes I will check the weightings and I'll say, hey, but they didn't test according to that particular weighting, but this is the norm and this is supposed to be the standard. But what I can tell you now for a fact is that topic 5, the selling process, they do ask a lot of questions on that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Also, I would like for you guys also to concentrate on topic 4, which is sales quotas. Okay. It is a topic where a lot of students falter. They fail dismally because of the jargon with it. And the unfortunate thing about it is that we can't change the jargon. We can't change the wording, because when we get the memorandum or the memo from DHET during the memo discussions for the external exam, they will tell you straight out, you can't change anything. It's not negotiable. So, like I said, and I'm saying it from the beginning, The subject is a verbatim subject. There is no room for analysis of interpretation. Okay, so you have to ensure that your students give it to you word for word back. And how do we do that? Repetition, ladies and gentlemen. We have to have repetition. It's important. Okay, so you will check, you will see there that each topic or each module has a weighting. 10, 5%, 10%, 15%, 15%, and then 35%. You will see there, and then types of selling and improvement on personal effectiveness. You'll see the percentage levels over there. So I'm telling you guys now, ladies and gentlemen, that you know, this is what DHET says that they do, but in some cases they don't do it. But it's a guideline that you can use to also set up your assessments, you know, and you need to give your students a mirror image of what they're going to expect in the external exam. Okay? You can't expect your students to perform miracles if we're not going to give them the exact same thing what they're going to expect in the final exam. Because what I'm finding is in some cases, some lecturers, what they're doing is they are doing what is called a watered down assessment. For example, they will do a TM or written test, which is the second assessment, and they will only ask that test for 60 marks. And now what happens is the student all of a sudden finds himself in a situation where they're doing well, and they have what is called a false sense of security. And when it comes to the internal exam, then all of a sudden they are found wanting. So we need to test more in order to get better results. Okay? What we do is, or what I do is at my campus, my assignment is basically out of 100, the assignment. That's the first assessment. So what we do is we take what is called 30% of that 100 marks, and we have what is called a group assignment where we tell them, okay, you need to go out and you need to sell a product or service to me as a presentation, and they have to sell that product or service based on features and benefits. So they can sell any product. And then the 70% that's remaining, it's a test, it's a written test. So in other words, we tell them, these are the questions that we're going to ask. You need to go home and study those questions and come back. Yes, it's similar to what we call a PATH at or an ISAT at NCV level, where you're actually telling them, listen, go and study those questions and come back. But what you're actually doing is you're actually preparing them in that way. So there's quite a huge benefit to that. So they come back and they've got those questions, they've studied those questions, and I would say that the learning has taken place and the successful testing that has taken place, even though you've given them those particular questions. But I guarantee you they're going to know those questions when it comes to the exam. That is what I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. Doesn't want to move.
Okay.
Let's check. I think I just pressed there.
Yeah, it should do. That's weird. I think you have to have your question.
Okay, right. So we're going to look at the details of the question paper according to DHET. In other words, how does DHET structure the paper? And I'm just going to show you a couple of nicks and tricks with regards to letting your students pass the exam paper. We all know that Section A is a compulsory section in the exam, and it covers all the modules of instructional offering, which can consist of comparison analysis and synthesis. We know that Section A is a compulsory section, true and false, match column A with column B, definitions. Colleagues, I'm going to ask you this, and I'm sure a lot of you have got access to it at your college. Make sure that you download a minimum of about 5 semesters papers with memorandums and see how DHET structures that Section A, ladies and gentlemen. I promise you, if you're going to give your students those type of particular questions, they will do very well in the final exam. Make sure that you mirror image your assessments to the final exam papers, because you're giving your students practice and you're also letting them gain confidence as into how the exam is going to be presented to them in the final external exam. Section B consists of 4 questions, of which 3 are compulsory. What we are finding in the exam center, ladies and gentlemen, that students are not following the instructions. And we're finding that some of them are doing all 4 questions for section B. So what happens is we look at the first 3, we mark the first 3, and now the student has, out of 50, maybe 16 for the one, and now they've got 22 for the second one, and then all of a sudden they've got maybe a 10 for the third one, and the fourth they've got 40 out of 50. Unfortunately, we have to scratch out the last one. So also, when you're doing your briefing to your students, make sure that you tell them how the exam paper needs to be answered, and tell them to read carefully, particularly to the exam. Okay. The DHET exam, the focus will be placed on the following. The nature of the paper, first of all, number 1, it's an external paper. It is 1 paper. The duration of the paper is 3 hours. The total mark allocation, ladies and gentlemen, is 200 marks. Compulsory section A, 50 marks, ladies and gentlemen. And elective questions in section B, 150 marks. Now, we find that a lot of students normally, I mean, this is historic data which I'm speaking about. Sometimes I'm correct, sometimes I'm not correct. But we find that students that normally sit for the full duration of 3 hours, they won't pass. Between 1 hour and 2 hours, they normally pass the exam, because those are the students that know all the information. And then they walk out after that. But those people that sit longer than that, sometimes they're trying to get the information, and 9 out of 10 times the information is incorrect, what they're going to write down. So I would advise you to just educate your students with regards to telling them, please do not answer 4 questions. It needs to be 3 questions, unless stipulated that you must answer 4. But I can tell you now for a fact, the composition of the paper is section A is 50 marks and section B is 150, which equates to the 200 marks, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Now, the assessment and guidelines, or what we call the ICAS, which is the internal continuous assessment.
Peter?
Yes.
Can I just make a suggestion?
Sure.
I'm reading the room, and it looks like they know about the weighting and the assessments and all of that.
Yeah.
Is it possible to maybe stick to the meat of everything else, which is the content?
Okay. So do you want me to move on from the guidelines?
Yes.
Okay, right.
Just so that we can, keep them.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm gonna go now to best practice for the subject.
Thank you.
Okay. So look, I mean, when I talk about best practice, the following information will assist with the best practice for sales management in 5. There's obviously more things you can do, and I'm sure our colleagues on that side also maybe have some ideas that they can pitch as well. But the first thing I'd like to say is, please ensure that you have a semester plan and you're managing your time correctly. Okay? Try to stick to the time frames of the semester plan, otherwise you're going to find yourself falling behind, especially with the strikes where we had to adjust the exam according to what we've actually taught. So I would tell all lecturers right now to try and, as soon as your students get there, get going immediately and get it done as speedily as possible, obviously without compromising the quality and the integrity of the syllabus. You know, because You don't want to be doing things slowly and then you find yourself in a situation where you're running out of time because you've lost 10 days to strikes or students not getting their travel allowance, etc., etc. Do adequate preparation in line with your syllabus in advance. And more importantly, have lesson plans for each module taught, ladies. Teach the syllabus from the syllabus in conjunction with the textbook using your learning objectives. Kenny has said that using PowerPoint slides and give them notes to summarize, which I'm sure a lot of you are doing, and have formative tests after each module. And I'd like to emphasize on that, ladies and gentlemen, the formative test. You have to have a formative test after each module. And the formative test has to cover the frequently asked questions that are with reference to the final exam. Because you're going to see what the progress is after each module if you're going to do the formative test. I know it's an administrative nightmare. I know a lot of lecturers are going to say, yes, but I don't have time. But unfortunately, you have to make time for it in order to see the desired result. More importantly, go over the frequently asked questions. Okay? You will find if you are going to download all those question papers from the DHET website, you're going to see that there are certain questions in the exam paper that they ask frequently. And I think you need to make an asterisk or make a note about those questions and ask them in your assessments. So that's let them do previous questions to get the feel for the type of questions asked in the exam. Okay. For example, if there are question papers or questions that needs to be done, check and see. I know your textbook has got questions, but also check the questions in the exam paper and see whether they are more or less the same. Okay. Another thing also, before you start with your syllabus, because this is something that's very key, asking your students about learning challenges with regards to can they study, because we found that a lot of our students don't know how to study, and we had to teach study methods. Yes, they're coming from school, we understand that. But we found that some of them don't have the ability to study. They don't have the ability to grasp information. The other issue is these are COVID babies. With respect, I'm saying that. They come out of the COVID process, and you know what happened is many of them haven't been in the formal learning environment. Some of them have been doing things from online or at home. We're finding that a lot of the challenges are coming from that. Also, the other issue is venue availability for studying. So there's a lot of social issues that we need to deal with here. You know, before we even start pitching the information, we have to fix that. Have frequent tests, as this subject requires as much repetition as possible. The name of the game for success in this subject is repetition, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Examination preparation and assessment. Ensure to cover as much as possible of the syllabus and give them a test that will test the knowledge taught and see if the candidate can apply the knowledge practically. In other words, as soon as you finish with topic 1, test. It's very important. I know I'm repeating myself, but unfortunately that is the reality of the subject. Example, when doing an assignment, let's test the practical application in the theory of the modules. For example, how do you sell the product using the 7 steps of the selling process? Let's demonstrate that. And then you're going to see whether application is possible. Let them also do a PowerPoint presentation on how to sell the product and the service based on features and benefits. Because when they're going to go out into the outside world or in the work environment, they must have the ability to sell a product or a service based on features and benefits. Okay. Then let them write down a test based on the modules taught, but however, give them the questions to go home and study and let them write it under exam conditions. What we're saying is, when you're doing the assignment, for example, The 70% I discussed with you, which is the test. Let them take those questions home. Let them study it. And when they get to class, they will write those questions under exam conditions. Yes, you've given them the questions, but they still have to study it and come home and come and do it. For the written test, let them answer questions based on substantial amount of the modules. Example, if you completed the selling process, let them write it off. And what I normally do is with the selling process, I let them write off steps of the selling process with the topic improvement on personal development effectiveness. So that covers quite a huge amount of the syllabus. Okay, and it gives you enough time also to concentrate on the other modules, the other 5 modules. The other 5 modules are a lot shorter than these than the selling process, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to find that. Ensure that frequently asked questions of previous question papers are answered. More importantly, the internal exam. We spoke about the 3 assessments. We spoke about the assignment. We spoke about the written test, and we spoke about the internal exam. Please ensure that your internal exam is a mirror image of your external exam to give your student an effective level of success of passing the final exam. Because this will be a true test of knowledge for the student's readiness. And normally, when you're testing for the internal exam, it accounts for 80% of the modules, ladies and gentlemen. So you're going to find yourself with this subject doing a lot of marking, unfortunately. That is just the reality of it. I can tell you now for a fact, my assignment, when we did the assignment, and this is just little tips, the assignment out of the 100, the TM or the test, the written test was out of 150. And the internal exam is out of 200. Yes, it's a lot of marking, but I can promise you it's going to benefit you, and you're going to see your results are going to improve if you're going to ask more information. Unfortunately, the sad thing is that some of our colleagues want to have a quick fix, and there is no quick fix to this. Okay, you have to put in the hard yards in order for it to be successful. Right, so let's look at the modules. So I'm going to just compare the modules. I'm just going to show you the modules over here. The learning outcomes as per the Oxford textbook. And I just wanted to know, are you guys using the Oxford textbook? Kenny?
No. No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. So what textbook are you using, Kenny, if I may ask?
They're using another Peter Benito book, and they're using Heinemann as another resource as well.
Okay. Okay, so let's look at the learning outcomes or the learning objectives as per DHET. So we have to look at the role and importance of the economic system and the benefits. Okay, explaining the place and importance of personal sales within the marketing process. Describing and analyzing the role of various duties of the salesperson. So if you look at the learning objectives, okay, of DHET and the Oxford book, they basically speak to each other. Personal sales and the marketing system. What is personal selling? And I'd like to place emphasis on that because when you look at personal selling, that is an exam-based question, and I can tell you now for 7 marks in the final exam. Guys, maybe just to highlight that, very important, ladies and gentlemen. You have to ask that question. That question needs to be tested because it's a definition. And it's a definition between 5 and 7 marks. Okay? Then you have to look at the nature and roles of sales and marketing. And I'd like you also to highlight that in your guideline that you've got or your manual that you've got, because that question accounts for 28 marks in the final exam. And I'm giving you the marks allocations because I know the mark allocations because I mark it every semester. Yes, sometimes it changes now and again. And then 1.2, if you look at the learning outcomes as per Oxford book, the role and task and function of personal sales. Okay. And then 1.3, the personality characteristics of a successful salesperson. Very important as well, ladies and gentlemen. Also exam-based question. The other question you can place emphasis to is the physical image of a salesperson, also must know, not negotiable. So what I'm doing here is I'm just giving you a few tips over here as to what is important and what is not important and what you need to emphasize on when it comes to the exam, ladies and gentlemen. So, the nature and extent of personal sales in the Oxford textbook, learning objectives, page 1. So, when you have completed this module, you should know the following. You must know what is personal selling. You need to describe the role and the importance of personal selling in the economic system. Discussing the benefits and disadvantages of personal selling. Explaining the importance of personal selling in the marketing process, but also describing and analyzing the role and tasks and duties of personal selling, including a job description and a job specification. Please note that your students must know the difference between the job description and the job specification, ladies and gentlemen. Identifying and describing the personal characteristics of a salesperson. That is a question that comes up all the time like clockwork. Please highlight that. And then we look at, like I said, the physical image of a salesperson, must know, not negotiable, ladies and gentlemen. So please highlight that, because when you go back, you will ask those type of questions once you've completed the module. But like I also said, use your textbook, but also please download the question papers off the DHET website, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm talking about the question papers, ladies and gentlemen, and that's irrelevant, ladies and gentlemen. Sales forecasting. Now, I'm going to say this, not the easiest module. We find that a lot of students falter here because it is just a lot of information. And these are the type of modules that you have to test frequently. So the importance of forecasting, and I'd like to emphasize on 2.2, ladies and gentlemen, the methods of forecasting. Those forecasting methods with the advantages and disadvantages. They have to know it. It's not even negotiable. On average, they need to know the definition of that particular module or particular method and a minimum of 3 advantages and 3 disadvantages. Minimum. Okay, nothing less. The only one that does not have advantages and disadvantages is time series analysis. The rest all has advantages and disadvantages. Okay, and then of course you will look at your syllabus here according to DHET. You can see basically what they're asking. Okay, and these are the things you need to concentrate on, ladies and gentlemen. Learning objectives as per DHET. Okay, so sales forecasting in the textbook. I'm talking about the learning objectives in the Oxford textbook, also understanding and explaining the importance of forecasting sales, uses and advantages of sales forecasting, identifying, describing the methods generally used in forecasting. And as you can see in the textbook, it also complies with the different types of methods that's being used with regards to the advantages and disadvantages. Unfortunately, the sad thing here is you can't change the wording. That is the sad thing. You know, a lot of us will try and make it easier for the student, but in reality, we can't do that. In reality. Sorry, let me just switch this off. So, like I said, this is where the jargon comes in, and you have to basically use the information that's given to you and use the information in the textbook. You cannot change it, because when we get the memo is exactly the same and we can't change it. Even when we're going to the memo discussion with the examiner for the subject, I'll tell you straight out, you can't change it. So it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Robotic, you know? Yeah, it's route learning, guys, unfortunately. And I think a lot of us struggle, or a lot of our colleges struggle with this particular subject because it's verbatim. We're finding the same thing with public relations as well. Because it's word for word, our students struggle. And we need to go back to the system where we have to teach them to route learn the particular subject, unfortunately. Sales territories. That is topic 3. Learning outcomes, advantages of specific demarked sales territories, thorough coverage of the market. In other words, what is the advantages of sales territories? That is an exam-based question, ladies and gentlemen, normally for 21 marks in the final exam. Factors that influence demarcation, assigning salespeople to sales territories. Okay, those are also important questions that get tested over and over and over again with regards to sales territories, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so I'd like you to place emphasis to 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 with regards to that, ladies and gentlemen, where you see the learning outcomes as per Oxford textbook. Very important. We find also that this module, not the easiest module, we also find that a lot of students are wanting, because when we mark the exam, ladies and gentlemen, we find that we have to write a report based on the questions, and then we have to obviously identify which questions are the challenging questions, and we find that with sales territories, another issue with regards to challenges with the exam. So again, once again, when you have completed this module, you must understand the following. Same thing in the Oxford textbook on page 44 also gives you all the relevant information. It covers all the aspects. It explains the definitions. What I like about the Oxford textbook is there's good real life examples, case studies, relevant activities and assessments, and also there's exam-based questions. Good consolidation of the module in the review with reference to page 63. I know you don't have a textbook in front of you, but I'm just doing some quick referencing with regards to that. Sales quotas. This is the headache of the exam. Quotas. I can tell you now for a fact, 5% of students normally get this right in the final exam. Between 5 and 7%. The rest falter. They just falter because they can't understand it. And as a lecturer, a lot of you are fully aware of it, and I'm sure a lot of you are aware of it, that you can't change you can't change the information. You can't make it simpler because they want that particular jargon over there. They want that jargon regurgitated. So over here, what are the objectives of quotas? Exam question, once again, 21 marks. Also, more importantly, 4.2 types of quotas. You need to name it and you need to explain it. Okay. You also have to explain the uses of quotas that manage the sales process. So I'd like you to place emphasis. I'd like you to highlight 4.1. I'd like you to highlight 4.2. And I'd like you to put an asterisk by 4.3, the procedures of determining quotas. Okay, because that's very important. It's an important exam question that needs to be followed, or that needs to be consolidated. Okay. Like I said, not an easy module, and I find a lot of students are faltering with regards to this module. So there's certain modules, we will discuss it in the feedback session, and you guys can give me some feedback as to what are the modules that your students are actually struggling with, and we can see what we can do in order to solve those issues. Okay, this is just the highlight or the information with regards to the Oxford textbook. So you can see basically it's exactly being the same thing. It's being explained just in a different way, but it's the same information basically. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, explaining the various types of quotas used in practice. You know, we talk about sales volume quotas, expense quotas, activity-based quotas, combination and point quotas. Those are all, you know, to majority of our students, that sounds like it's gibberish. Because, you know, they're going to ask, but how am I actually going to make this relevant in the in my work environment, because for me, this is more on a managerial level and not as a normal salesperson that you can actually use this information. So a lot of them are going to say, but I don't need to know this. But the bottom line is, unfortunately, it's in the syllabus and it needs to be taught. And unfortunately, it's in the final exam and there's absolutely nothing we can do to change it. The selling process, the most important module, ladies and gentlemen, please highlight. It's a module that you have to teach in detail, ladies and gentlemen. And a lot of your testing will have to come from this module. And I would advise you, I mean, if you are allowed to start this module first, the sales process. Start this module first because it's a chunk. And also the students are fresh. So let them start with this module first. The first one is 5.1 prospecting. They must know what is prospecting. They must know the qualification of leads and criteria, the ability to buy, the need, the size of the transaction, the frequency of the need. Those are things they must know. Okay, so 5.1 prospecting, please make sure that you test everything there. It's not negotiable. Okay. 5.2 is the second part, which is planning the sales presentation. That is the second step in the selling process. And then 5.3, the approach towards the sales presentation. 5.4, the sales presentation. And then 5.5, dealing with the different types of objectives. In the exam now, we had the psychological objectives that they actually asked for 24 marks. They asked you, what are the different types of psychological objectives? And what we found is that a lot of students only had headings and they never had the content to explain. Please make sure that you give them the content, even and a minimum of 3 sentences. Okay, so make sure that you fill those gaps, because what we're finding is some lecturers are just giving the headings because they think that the content is not going to be asked. And then when it comes to the case where the examiner is saying, explain psychological objectives under these headings, and then the student is dead. And then the student's got no ability to answer the question. And that is what we're finding with majority of the questions, because some of our colleagues are just giving headings and they're hoping that the examiner changes the questions every year. You need to make sure that you fill all the gaps with regards to that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so make sure, emphasis on 5.5, ladies and gentlemen, emphasis on physical objections, emphasis on psychological objections. You can maybe just write it in over there, 5.5. The sales presentation as well, a lot of information or a lot of questions get asked on that. At the later stage, maybe I can speak to Kenny, obviously, and see if we can come up with a couple of questions that I can maybe email you guys. But that's up to Kenny. I can't discuss that right now. As to what are the relevant questions that you can ask, but I don't want to discuss that now. That needs to be spoken to. I'll speak to Kenny about that and we'll see what happens. 5.6, closing the sale or closing the transaction. And then obviously also 5.7, after sales service. Please, ladies and gentlemen, if you know, or if your student knows the selling process, they basically probably making about 40% of the exam if they know it. We've had students who took risks at our college. I'm not supposed to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. And they told me, the one student said to me, sir, I'm not going to study the one topic. I said, why not? Because it's too much. So I asked him, so what are you going to do? I'm going to concentrate on topic 1, topic 2, topic 3. I'm going to leave out topic quotas because I don't like it. And then I'm going to go to topic 5, 6, and 7. I said, but that's risky. And what he did was, he made sure he knew every single thing and every single question with regards to those topics, because he didn't like that particular topic. And he actually passed with a 70%. He passed. So it's risky, and I'm not telling you to do that, but some of our students have done things like that. Okay, I'm not saying it's best practice. Okay, and I'm not advocating it in any way, But what I'm saying is some of our students took it upon themselves and said, you know what, I don't like that topic, I'm not doing it. So it's very risky, but in some cases it paid off. So we're finding students are kind of saying, you know what, I'll make it, but I will rather focus on topics that I like. So yeah, so. So the sales process, okay, explaining the importance of continuous prospects to customers, describing the various prospecting techniques, discussing the importance of good preparation, explaining and describing the various approach techniques that can be used, ladies and gentlemen. More importantly, also explaining the range of techniques to overcome objectives. So you will notice in the Oxford textbook, it's also very comprehensive, and it's in line with the prescribed syllabus and covers all the aspects and explains the definitions. Good consolidation of the module as well. But like I'm saying, please place emphasis on topic 5, ladies and gentlemen. I know that in the Future Managers textbook, okay, topic 5 is actually topic 7. Prospecting starts from topic 7 to topic 13, because those are the 7 steps in the selling process, quote unquote. So from module 7 to module 13 is the selling process. They have to know that, not negotiable. And then topic 14 is time and area management. And then module 6, easy topic, types of selling or types of sales. Not a lot to ask there, okay, but it's very relevant to the call center environment. They talk about telephone etiquette, reasons for making use of telephone sales. They talk about the users in the organization, the importance of the buying team. All that information there is very relevant and it needs to be asked. Okay, but what I can say is we find that a lot of our students do well on this module because it's an easy module. It's a very user-friendly, it's a friendly module, ladies and gentlemen. And we find that students tend to enjoy this module more because there's a lot of active participation in this particular module. But quotas, oh my God, no. Types of sales, Oxford textbook also, same information. They speak about the importance of telephone sales, giving the reasons why telephone sales are used. Ethics in telephone sales, very important. That's a question also in the exam. Ethics, telephone ethics. What are the ethics you have to take into account when dealing with telephone sales? Okay. So that's a very important thing. And also more importantly, the different roles in the buying team. I'd like you just to highlight that, the different roles in the buying team, ladies and gentlemen, because that also is a very important question for the exam, ladies and gentlemen. And then Module 7, improvement of personal effectiveness, in comparison with the DHET syllabus. And you can put in brackets there time and area management, because this is just another word, because they speak about the improvement of personal effectiveness in comparison of the DHET syllabus in Oxford, DHET syllabus. They speak about that, but in actual fact, another word for that is time and area management. Also a nice, an easy module. It's an easy flowing module, time management, area support, self-support, application. And on the left-hand side, they talk about what is time management. And also you can put in there, which is important, an important question that frequently comes into the exam is what we call how to get rid of time traps. Okay. I'm sure you've got one of those questions because that's an important question that frequently comes up in the exam. So, and obviously the aids that are used in, to improve time and area management as well. Okay. So, explain the concept time and area management. Explain the concept area support and also what modern technological aids you can use that facilitates effective time and area management. For example, computers, laptops. All the modern things that they use now to improve, obviously, time and how to get hold of customers these days, because 30, 40 years ago these things weren't available, and now all of a sudden you've got all these modern gadgets that are allowing you to actually get hold of customers and running a business from these gadgets. So easy module. A lot of the students, they tend to be they like this module because it's a very user-friendly module, ladies and gentlemen. Right, so that basically concludes the presentation, Kenny, with regards to the syllabus. Okay. I would like to know, are there questions from the floor, Kenny, with regards to what I've just spoken about? I know it's a mouthful, and I'm sure there's many questions that the lecturers, our colleagues, would like to ask with regards to what I've just spoken about now. Kenny, the floor is yours.
Yes,
Kenny?
Can you hear me?
Okay, I'm listening.
There's one question on the floor.
Okay, so, look, basically, this is not a question per se. If we check now, according to how you break down in terms of the percentage and the time that you should spend on each and every module, when it has one of the next will be because they were selective to certain modules, right? So according to how you break down, this one can be able to see that which module basically should emphasize or basically which module basically they do have problems with.
Sorry, Kenny, we can't hear. I think people will have to come and stand close to the microphone with a question.
Got you. Not a problem.
Hey,
He's gonna
sorry about that.
Closer. No problem. That's all right.
Thanks, Kenny.
Okay, sir. I'm
Yes,
saying
sir.
this is not basically a question, right? We realize that maybe one of the reasons that might lead to poor performance of students could be in terms of maybe like students will complain in terms of they say they have more modules, like 40 modules. So they tend to be selective when they have to prepare for modules. But for the fact that you break down in terms of the percentage and also the duration that we should spend on each module, I think it is very, very helpful. We can be able to go and then break down to them so that they can fully understand to tell you how long they should spend in terms of time on each and every module.
Look, I mean, the timeline that I gave you is a guideline, sir. Okay, so you need to use your discretion. But what I'm saying is, if we look at the time frame for the completion of the syllabus, you've got about 14 weeks in total to complete the syllabus. And when we talk about time, if you look at topic 1, for example,
Right.
that can take you about 2 weeks to complete because of the amount of information on that particular topic. But if you look at topic 5, or the selling process, in your case, in the Future Managers textbook on module 7, okay, module 7 to 13, that is the bulk of the syllabus, and it requires a lot of your time over there. And also, when I spoke about the composition of the testing or the percentages, that is a guideline that DHET has given us with regards to what percentage they are going to test of a particular module. They don't always follow that. That is something I'm going to tell you. But what I'm saying also is you need to use a discretion as to how much time you're going to spend on that particular module, because I don't know what the situation at the college is, number one, and number two, I don't also know at what pace your students are going to grasp the particular module. So in that case, you will have to use a discretion over there, sir, with regards to how much time you're going to spend. But the time that I've given you in the presentation is a guideline. It's not cast in stone. So I'm not saying that you must spend 2 weeks. If you feel you can do it quicker, hey, all good, But it's just a guideline so that you can complete on time and have enough time for revision. That's basically what it is. It's going to depend on you as a lecturer and how your students actually grasp and how quickly they can get through the module. I hope that answers your particular question, sir.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions, Kenny?
No, that's not any other questions. But what I'd like to say is that I liked your suggestion regarding the assignment. Because now they tend to get high marks with the assignment because it's just in the presentation. But now you say that you guys make it 30% practical and 70% theory. I think that could work in our favor as well as to get or obtain good marks towards their final exam.
Yes, ma'am. Also, I'm going to say this. What we're finding is that with the assignment, you're going to find students that are hiding behind other students when it comes to doing the work. So what, and also, we found that it's better to split the assignment into two sections, part 1 and part 2. So 30 marks will be a presentation, ma'am, and 70% will be a test, which means no student will have the same mark for the assignment. So that's the reasoning behind it.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys are happy with that process.
Yes. Is it possible that you can at least send us a sample of one of your assignments?
Absolutely. I will send it to Kenny.
Okay.
Can I do that, Kenny? Kenny, is that good?
His house time is coming back now.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is, ma'am, I will send it to Kenny. I will send an assessment to Kenny. I'll email it to him and he can email it to you guys. Is that okay, ma'am?
Yes. But is it possible that we can give you our email because now it's a long process going to Kenny and then us? Can we do an email?
I can take them down.
Yeah.
Let's get them.
Okay, yeah, because I would prefer rather to work through Kenny. I don't want to.
Yeah,
You
but
know
I'll take down the addresses. So the first one.
Hello, ma'am.
I'm just wondering. You know what? I think I'm going to battle with hearing and spelling.
Maybe Kenny, they must write it down to give it to Kenny. I think that's a good idea.
Or you can. I think write down your, you know what? I think I may even have your email addresses from the attendance register.
Okay.
Because I think that was filled in as well. So I will get that from Kenny, and then I can email through to you from Peter.
Would you guys also like me to send you a sample of the written test?
Yes, that would be nice. That would be nice.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, with Kenny and Jackie's permission, I'm gonna set up a little package for you guys.
Yeah.
With a copy of the assignment, the written test, and the internal exam with the memos. Are you guys good with that?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you happy with that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna do that. Wherever we can help to improve the marks, it will be done.
Thank you.
Can I just ask the question, if I may? What are the challenges you guys are facing with regards to the subject? I would just like to get a general understanding, please.
Our challenges are actually more internal. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah, you just come nearer to the mic, please, ma'am.
Now, the presentation was very informative. I'd like to say that first. Some of the things that you have mentioned, we are trying to implement them or already have implemented them. But most of our challenges are actually internal,
For the past 3 years, we have been striving to have more contact sessions with our students. And like we said, the subject actually needs more contact with the students. So they're actually more internal. So we're hoping that this semester it will be different. We'll have more contact sessions with our students. And then we'll also try to implement that we start with the selling process first, put more emphasis on the selling process.
Yes. Maybe if I may ask something, if I may ask you something, sorry to break your word, I apologize. How many contact sessions per week do you have with the students?
We usually have 2. We would have 2. We'd meet them 2 times a week. That will be about 2 hours a week.
So it's 2 hours per week.
Yes. So that was not enough.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay. So it's 2 hours per week. Okay. Oh my God. That's not enough, ma'am.
No, it's not.
It's not enough. And I think that's part of the problem over there. So there's not enough contact time.
Anything
else, ma'am?
The text, our prescribed textbook is actually longer than this one. So the students actually have now a negative attitude towards them, because I can see this Oxford one is actually smaller in size.
Yes.
And less modules, because with our prescribed textbook we've got 14 modules. Yours has got 6 modules, but with more emphasis on the study process.
You need to understand one thing. You've got 14 modules, but it's just cut. It's made shorter. It's actually split up, but it's the same thing. In reality, it's just that what they've done is they've made it into smaller little modules. That's what they've done. So in reality, it's the same thing. There's no difference with regards to that. You know,
but to the students, it looks longer. It looks tougher for them.
It does look longer. I know that. But module 7 to module 13, that's the selling process. And I would advise you guys to start with that immediately. Immediately.
Yes.
Because if you look at it, that's the bulk. That is the bulk of the textbook. And also, your students are now fresh, ma'am. So get them going on that particular modules right now. You know, because in my opinion, 7 to 13, yes, it's a lot of information. It's information overload, that I understand. But once you've got them doing that, basically got, in my opinion, 35% of the exam covered. So yes. Any other questions? Any other questions on the floor, Kenny?
They're looking at the screen smiling, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure, Peter. I don't think there's anything else on the floor currently, though, yeah. Okay,
so look, I mean, whatever assistance I can give, Kenny, I would gladly give it to you, but obviously via you and Jackie, I will do it. Okay. So whatever assistance we can you know, with regards to assisting them improve the results, I'm on board and I'm happy to assist.
Yeah, Kenny, I think you stepped out and there was a request for Peter to send some assessments and a copy of the exam paper. Do you have everyone's email addresses there?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? Anything else that you'd like to cover, Kenny?
Not from my end. I can ask from the room if there's anything else that you would like covered.
We just complete the textbook and then have no questions for come.
All right, there's nothing else, Peter, from this end.
Okay, so thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share with you guys in the session, and thank you, Kenny, for hosting. And I really look forward to engaging with you guys at a later stage. But more importantly, I will wait for those email addresses, or I will pass on the assessments to Jackie, and then Jackie will pass it on to you, Kenny, if that's okay.
That's all right. Yeah, she will. Yeah, she's all right. Can we just touch base before you go meet with your lobby? But I'll just call Jackie and we'll probably use her cell phone.
All good.
No problem. Thank you,
Thank
Peter.
you so much, and thank you, Goldfields, for giving me the opportunity to present.